who died in 2024. Glynis Johns was a British actress. In a career spanning 7 decades on stage and screen, Johns appeared in more than 60 films and 30 plays. Born October 5, 1923, Pretoria, South Africa. Died January 4, 2024, age 100 years, Los Angeles, California. Spouse, Elliot Arnold, M., 1964 to 1973, Seymour. Children, Gareth Forwood. Height, 5'4". Parents, Mervyn Johns, Alice Steele. Early life and education. Johns was born into a theatrical family. Her mother was Alice Steele Wareham, an Australian-born concert pianist who had studied in London and Vienna. Originally of English descent, Alice's family found fame as performing actors, singers and musicians, touring Australia, New Zealand and South Africa with their musical programs. Her grandmother, Elizabeth Steele Payne, was one of the first accomplished women violinists of her time. Johns' father was Welsh actor Mervyn Johns, who became a star of British films during the Second World War and worked regularly at Ealing Studios. Through him, she was a cousin of British judge John Geoffrey Jones. Alice and Mervyn met while studying in London, he at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art and she at the Royal Academy of Music. They married on November 17, 1922 in St. Giles, London, and began touring with her family's theatre company. Glynis Margaret Payne Johns was born on October 5, 1923, while her parents were touring Pretoria, capital of the then Union of South Africa, a dominion of the British Empire and later the British Commonwealth of Nations. She was named Margaret Payne after her grandmothers Margaret and Samuel and Elizabeth Steele Payne. The family returned to England just a few months after she was born. Aged 5, she joined the London Ballet School. By 6, she was hailed in Britain as a dancing wonder. By 10, she was working as a ballet instructor, and by 11, she had earned a degree to teach. Hoping to study with the Sadler's Wells Ballet at age 12, she was enrolled instead at Clifton High School in Bristol, balancing academia with the 2 hours a day she spent at the Cone School of Dancing, which later merged with the Ripman School to form Training Park School for the Performing Arts. As a dance student, Johns amassed some 25 gold medals. Aside from her Clifton education, she also attended South Hampstead High School in London, where she was a contemporary of Angela Lansbury. Public image. In September 1946, when she was still fairly new to the profession, Powell and Pressburger hailed Johns one of the most sought-after of all young British stars. She was voted by British exhibitors as the 10th most popular box office star in 1951 and 1952. By the time of Loser Takes All, 1956, Johns was a top box office draw. Relationships. Johns was married 4 times. She met her first husband, Anthony Forwood, while rehearsing for Quiet Wedding, 1941. A year after they met, Forwood asked her on a date and they were married within a month on August 29, 1942 in Westminster, London. The couple's only child, actor Gareth Forwood, was born on October 14, 1945. Following a lengthy court proceeding, she was granted a divorce on June 25, 1948 because of adultery by her husband. Johns began dating producer Anthony Darnborough after working together on Encore, 1951. He proposed to her at Windsor's Sunningdale Golf Club in June 1951. The Daily Telegraph later said that theirs was to have been one of the most glittering show business weddings, but it never took place. Gertie, 1951, took her to Broadway and their wedding was postponed. In December 1951, it was called off. The former couple remained good friends, and she appeared in his 1953 television drama Personal Affair. On February 1, 1952 in Manhattan, New York, Johns married David Foster, a Royal Navy officer and later president of Colgate-Palmolive. They divorced on May 17, 1956 on the ground of his adultery with an unnamed woman. He did not contest the charge. Johns married Cecil Henderson, a businessman, on October 10, 1960 in Westminster, London. They divorced on June 21, 1962. He cited adultery and she did not contest the charge. Johns's fourth and last husband was the writer and United States Air Force Captain Elliot Arnold. They announced their engagement on June 25, 1964 and were married on October 1 in Los Angeles, California. They divorced on January 4, 1973. In a 1973 interview with Robert Bergquist, Johns described, in her experience, the compatibility of theater and marriage, acting is my highest form of intelligence, the time when I use the best part of my brain. I was always told, by my married friends, for example, that I could apply that intelligence to something else, some other aspect of living, but I can't. I don't have the same flair in other things. On the subject of a fifth marriage, she reflected that I'd tread very softly in that area. Very softly. I certainly wouldn't rush into anything again, and I'd have to have an awful lot in common with anyone I'd consider marrying next time. Why so many marriages? It was absolute conservatism on my part. I was brought up to feel that if you wanted to have an affair with a man, well, you married him. I have friends who, if they'd followed that rule, would have collected an awful lot of pieces of paper by now. Following the death of her mother, Alice Steele Wareham, on September 1, 1971 in Westminster, Johns's father Mervyn Johns married actress Diana Churchill on December 4, 1976 in Hillingdon, London. Johns' grandson, Thomas Forwood, is a French writer and film director.